Welcome to the CareerJitsu podcast, where we connect the art of Jiu-Jitsu with your career. Our mission is to empower and inspire you with engaging conversations and valuable insights from people just like you who benefit from the shared relationship between your workplace and the art of Jiu-Jitsu, leading you to a more fulfilling and successful life. I am Jason Patterson, and this is Frank D'Amelio. We have a great guest today. His name is Dan Crowell. Dan Crowell is very well known in our school. He is a black belt in BJJ. He's been training in BJJ for 18 years, which is a long time. And he was telling us earlier that he also has been in his career, which is a auto mechanic at a new car dealership. He has been doing that job for 22 years. Which is pretty amazing nowadays in modern times. Not a lot of people stay in the same career for that long. So Dan is very loyal, committed, and dedicated. So we are excited to talk about his connection with his career and jiu-jitsu.
Super excited. Dan, thanks so much for coming in to the studio and joining us. We're really excited to tap into your wisdom. So why don't we get it started by telling us a little bit about how you got into becoming an auto mechanic and what that experience has been for you.
So it's great to be here, and how I got my start in the field. Basically, it's something I always found interesting, and I just figured I'd go to school for it and give it a try, and
So did you go through like the high school, like Bay Path kind of program, or did
I did a
graduated?
technical program at a community college.
Okay, so after
Yes,
graduation, then
yeah,
you went to a community college technical program, which was how long?
2 years.
Okay, 2 years, and then off into the
Yeah, and then I just got a job in the field after that, and I've just been with it ever since.
great. And now tell us a little bit about jujitsu. So you've been 18 years, you said? 18?
Yeah, 18 years.
18 years. That is impressive. And if you ever come to our gym and you roll with Dan, you're going to feel all of those 18 years of experience.
Absolutely.
100%. He's just one of the most creative rollers that you will ever meet. So 18 years ago, what got you into jujitsu?
It was also something I just found really interesting, and I just gave it a try one day, and I've been with it ever since.
Excellent. How did you feel when you started? Like, what was it like when you started jiu-jitsu? Were you nervous? Was it just like you flowed with it? Were you naturally gifted at it? Did you get crushed? Like, what was it like when you started? Do you remember back then?
Yeah, actually, but I wasn't nervous. Um, I've always been athletic. I feel I've played a lot of different sports growing up, and I just gave that first class a try, and it was awesome. Everyone there was awesome, and
Where did you start? Like,
it was
was it here?
it
No.
was actually with the Team Link at a location in Worcester.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he ended up training Team Link first, then he left Team Link, and then we actually ended up becoming Team Link. So he ended up going back to Team Link
Oh,
again.
that is so cool.
Yeah,
In a natural way,
everything just came full circle.
Welcome home. Welcome home. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And Jason, you were telling me that he's done some MMA too.
Yeah, he has had, how many fights have you had, Dan?
Uh,
4 MMA fights?
yeah, it was about 4.
Yeah. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I can tell you Dan was an absolute savage in the cage as well as on the mats. So, but let's get to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Let's first talk, Dan. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your perspective on how the connection is between being an auto mechanic, the duties that you have, or the job that you have as an auto mechanic, and the connection to jiu-jitsu? Like, can you give our listeners a little perspective on your connection between your career and jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so it's everything is basically problem solving. So everybody's had car problems before, and you got to take it somewhere to have it diagnosed, repaired, and when you're going through the diagnosis process, you gotta look into you know first of all what's going on with the car, what's the person complaining about, and when it comes to something like say an electrical problem, now you got to look into what's involved with that system, and then like so someone might say, oh, this part isn't working, but what they also might not know is there might be three other parts not working that like they don't use, so they don't realize it's working. And then
Okay.
like you might have to look at something like a wiring diagram and say, all right, now all these things aren't working. What's the common component that's involved with all that?
Wow.
So it's like being a detective, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of, with the problem solving, it's not something that gets done in a snap. Kind of like jujitsu, you need a lot of patience, right? To be a good mechanic, would you say you need
Oh,
patience?
absolutely.
And it's the same thing in jujitsu, right? You feel the same thing.
Yeah, right. Like you don't always find the answer in 5 minutes. Like sometimes it's like we have issues where like a car is completely disassembled for 2 weeks trying to find a problem.
Mm.
Right.
Especially with newer vehicles where like a newer car might have like 40 computers in it, and you got them with like miles of wiring harness, and none of it is as accessible. So you might have to take the top of an engine apart. You might have to pull a dash out of a car.
Yeah, this is
Nice.
this is very interesting because when I'm hearing you explain this, I'm thinking about the fact that on the mats we have so many different kinds of people, so many different kinds of body types. People have their strengths in certain areas and weaknesses in certain areas, different sizes, different weights. And I'm thinking of them as automobiles. Dan has so many different kinds of automobiles that come into his shop, and he has to think of, what do I need? What's going on with this automobile? How do I analyze and how do I handle this? And on the mats, you can go from one role with somebody who is 150 pounds and weak to somebody who is very strong and is 200 pounds. And
Right.
now you have to deal with those two opponents differently.
Right. Or somebody who's very powerful and somebody who's very fast. Totally different game. Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be a problem
Yeah,
solver.
right. Like you could work. You work on a full size SUV. Like it's like, oh geez, everything's big and heavy, and it's hard. It's hard trying to lift stuff up and get it into the right place. And like usually like a higher end car are the ones that have more electrical components. So it's more things that can go wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I think I remember you were talking a little bit earlier about the electrical component part, and you were saying how if like one part, like one electrical component goes bad, it can like cause other problems. Like
Like
could
a
you
chain,
Yeah.
like a
So
chain
like
reaction type thing? Yeah,
yeah, right. So like you could say like something like say like for example the other day I was looking at a vehicle where the seat wasn't automatically moving forward once it was starting up. Now, you know, the fact that the seat isn't moving doesn't mean that, oh, the problem's with the seat. There's like, you have the computer that controls the seat has to see various inputs from other things, and then once the computer gets all that information, then it outputs, the signals to the seat motor to move the seat.
yeah. It's interesting because when I hear you talking about that, the connection that I make with jujitsu there is fundamentals are really important, right? So, like, I think if you really understand how, in jujitsu, you really understand how, if the person does this, I do that, and you're able to kind of think already a few steps ahead in the set, and it's kind of like with an electrical component. If you know that this part is going bad, then it can cause the other problems it can cause, right?
Right, you always have to like, look at the picture of what's everything that could go wrong. Or
Right. Like it's kind of like in jujitsu, when you're a white belt, you're worrying about one thing. You're trying to get a Kimura. That's all you're thinking of is that elbow, right?
Yeah.
But a black belt, they're thinking of the whole thing.
yeah, right, like
Yeah.
They're thinking of they're thinking of solidifying their position. They're thinking of isolating it, and then they're knowing that they might not get it, but it could open up the door to then go for a north south or something different, right? So it's very similar.
right, like, someone's in your guard. Now there's, tons of different ways to open someone's guard, to pass their guard. So it's like you always got to look at, okay, is are they going to try a knee cut guard pass? And then, if I feel that's what they're going to start to do, then, I'll do a knee cut defense, and then but at the same time I'm also thinking about like what's their counter to a knee cut defense, and then I also got to think, how do I counter that counter?
So he's talking about being 3 steps ahead. That's a black belt answer.
That is a total black belt answer, and it's so cool how it applies to a career and a role.
Yeah.
That's what I love about what we do, right? It's putting it all together like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a quick question for you. I remember I took karate in college, and my karate teacher told us, he said, when you're a black belt, you realize you're like a brand new student again. And the second that you think that you know it all is the second that you stop learning. So we know, because we roll with you, how you are always trying new techniques, always doing new things. You have the attitude of a student, even though you're like one of the most advanced people in our gym. Do you carry that over to your career in auto mechanic? Are you always feeling like, yeah, obviously you have what, 22 years of experience as an auto mechanic. You have probably seen so many things. You probably have all your
He's a
trip
black belt. He's a black belt auto mechanic
You're a
too.
black belt. Do you carry the same philosophy that you have on the mats that we see all the time with you getting creative, trying this, trying that? Do you carry that over to your career as an auto mechanic?
Oh, absolutely. Like, like every time there's a new model year, like there's always newer technologies that are added into a vehicle. Like now, like, big thing is like driver assistance systems to help you avoid collisions, or, monitor when people are coming up into a blind spot area, or, if you're starting to drift to the side of a lane, and, hands-free driving systems. So you're always having to learn new stuff, and then every time there's new stuff, you got to learn how to diagnose problems that occur with the new technology that's added in.
Yeah, the commitment on the mats that you've had, been training for 18 years, that commitment on the mats has allowed you to develop so much knowledge and skills there. And it's really interesting to see how you also have done that in your job as an auto mechanic, developed so many years of knowledge and skills and and how you use them. So
Right.
I
And
think
always
it's
keeping
really
that door open to what's new. Let's see what's new. Let's see what we can try.
yeah.
And probably being willing to fail, right? Because when these new technologies come and you're trying to fix them, just like in jiu-jitsu, you try a new move, something funky like worm guard. That's not new for you, but it's new
Yeah.
for a lot of us, and you fail a lot.
Yeah.
So failure is probably
Right.
something that you have seen on the
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, you try a technique, and wow, this person just blew right by you and you got tapped out with whatever. And it's like, and you gotta, go back and look, okay, like how did I let that happen? What do I gotta do to defend it?
right.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's your favorite time of the program. It's tapping time. So we're reaching out to you to see if there's anybody out there who's listening to our interview right now who might be in the mechanic trade, or really any of the trades where it's technical work that you're doing. Do you see the same kinds of parallels that we're talking about here with problem solving and patience? We would love to tap into your thoughts. Join us in tapping time.
So Dan, I'm sorry to switch gears a little
Yeah.
bit. Just wanted to get this in there because Dan is very fit. So
Yeah.
not only has he been training jiu-jitsu for a long time, but he also has been able to keep his fitness level really well. And so, uh, Dan, do you notice that, like, I imagine an auto technician being able to get in really awkward positions where they're like underneath the car or inside the car. Do you feel like your jujitsu
That's a
training,
great
your
question.
fit, your
Yeah,
fitness in
does it help?
jujitsu?
Does your flexibility and
Yeah, like because you
ability to
probably can get
manipulate your body help you get into tight spaces, and
right.
where if somebody was like maybe
Yeah,
clunky and not flexible,
yeah.
it'd be
Like a
hard.
coworker could say, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I
oh,
can't get to that,"
yeah,
like
like Dan, come over here. Can you wiggle your hand in there and turn upside down?
Yeah, there are a lot of parts that are not accessible, and they're, whoever designed it probably didn't want to even make it to be accessible. They just said, I, this car's got to have this. We got to stick it somewhere. Who cares? Who cares what I'm gonna
Who cares about Dan?
who cares what I'm gonna bury in
Yeah.
the way on top of it? But yeah. I mean, like, especially with newer cars, everything's about like having room in the passenger compartment, but also we got to have all this stuff, so we got to sacrifice the limited space that
For the
to
mechanic.
make the
Yeah.
non-accessible area
Sorry,
for
mechanics. The passenger wins here, right?
yeah, but yeah, you might have to contort yourself into
I think Dan would be the perfect person to do CareerJitsu. Have you heard of CareerJitsu?
Yes. Yeah, have you heard of CareerJitsu?
I think I've
You
seen
It's a
would
jiu-jitsu
kill
match
it.
in a car.
Like they have the
They do
seatbelts
it
on
like
and they go
Vegas.
5,
Yeah.
4, 3, 2, 1. Don't they take off
Yeah,
the seatbelt?
yeah.
And
They have to use their seatbelt.
yeah, they could use their seatbelts. They could use
Yeah.
clothes.
Because you're
No,
probably so good at maneuvering in the car, and you're also good at maneuvering on the mats.
Right. And the way he would use that seatbelt, if you ever roll with Dan, Dan uses every part of your gi and his gi in the most like technical ways to choke you out. So yeah, let's get him
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah,
Would you do it?
I don't know.
Well, he's done MMA fights, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So Dan was an MMA fighter. I've cornered all of his fights. So,
I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say he's got the coolest cauliflower ears.
yeah.
Like that's like
Yeah.
you know when you walk by him,
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah, he's got those typical ears that you walk by and you go, "Oh, that guy can grapple."
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything to him.
I think
I'm trying to get him, but I still don't have him yet.
I'll make that happen.
We can work on that, Frank.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I want a little bit. I need some clout. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted our listeners to know this is the real deal who we're talking to.
Yeah, we'll I want our listeners to know that we're going to work on giving Frank cauliflower ears
Yeah.
too.
If you can ever get that far.
I mean, I try to take it easy on you, but now that I know that
Now-
now that I know what your goal is, we can we'll work on that.
Just a little on the left. A little. It doesn't have to be crazy. Just a little on the left. So go ahead. You were
Yeah.
saying that.
So I've cornered all of Dan's MMA fights, and every single fight that he had was a battle. Except for the first fight, he immediately, like, he won the fight in a minute. He took the guy down. I think I told you earlier today in class, Frank, that he took the guy down with a blast double.
The nasty blast.
So he did a blast double, passed the guy's guard, got him into mounted choke. The fight was over in a minute.
Was it like an Ezekiel or?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a guillotine from out.
Oh, you got a guillotine from Mount.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was his first MMA fight, and then all of the fights after that were just absolute wars. Like he took fights against opponents that were very, very, very solid opponents. There are opponents that I don't want to say names because who knows, they don't want me to say their name maybe. But the fighters that he went like the full distance with made it to the professional level, and they're actually good professional level fighters too. So he had fight of the night one night. We were talking the other day about another fight that he had that he ended up losing, but he was winning with like 30 seconds left in the fight. He was winning the fight, and the ref told him he had the guy against the cage, and the ref told him to get off the cage or something. And Dan like pulled him away from the cage. And when he pulled him away from the cage, the guy got him in a choke with like 30 seconds left. But he was winning the fight at the moment.
Man.
But so the mental toughness that Dan has, right? So Dan is always willing to take on challenges. So how do you think, Dan, like that has helped you also in your career with challenges? Like, do you approach, because I know you approach the mats like that, whenever somebody comes in, even you have a high level black belt that comes in, you're always wanting to roll with them. You're like, you're not ducking them. You're trying to get to be challenged all the time on the mats. And you always have been wanting to challenge yourself, through the MMA fights. Do you translate that into your job? Like, how do you accept challenges? Because there are some times where you have days, I'm sure, that are easier than others. And then some days where you feel like, it's a lot more challenging. So how do you handle that? And do you feel that that's helped you grow?
Yeah, I mean, like, training for an MMA fight, like that in itself is a full-time job. So it's like I'm essentially working two full-time jobs, but like, you got to go into it with the mindset that like, this is what I want to do. I got to be prepared for it. So I gotta, you got to do the work to prepare yourself. And, and it's like, everybody has bad days at work during the day or whatever, but, you got to, make it to class, for, at night. And, you just got to be like, have the mindset, whatever happened during the day, it's like, at night, it's essentially, we'll call it a new day where, you get on the mats and, you're starting fresh. Whereas, I go into work where, I didn't find the answer to the problem the first day, on the third day, the fourth day, but, maybe a week later, or, you kept at it and, eventually, you found out what was going on.
Yeah, so just putting in the work and just staying strong and just keep moving, keep growing. That's awesome. Yeah. So all right, so Frank, do you have anything in terms of
I just have a quick question about mechanics, and a lot of people, we were talking before the interview. I just think it's interesting that people don't know this. When you're a mechanic, I don't know if people know this. I didn't know this. I don't think Jason knew this. When you're a mechanic and you work at whatever dealer you're at, they don't give you your tools. You have to invest in your own toolbox. You have to decide which set of tools you want. You have to buy them. You said that people just 2 years in have already spent like $20,000 on their tools. You said you probably have like $50,000 worth of tools. It's a huge investment. People don't understand this. Talk a little bit about building your toolbox and how that relates to building your toolbox in jiu-jitsu, because everybody in our gym has a deep appreciation of your toolbox because the tools you use are super specific and unique. So talk a little bit about how you build your tool set in your profession and in your practice in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, right. So it's all, an investment in your career. So, you start off as a white belt and like you just gotta keep training, get on the mats, you find out which techniques work for you, which techniques don't work for you, which techniques work against people that have a certain game, a certain body size, which techniques don't work against someone that has certain game, certain body size. And, as far as getting the right tools to do a job, like on top of that, like every manufacturer has their own, separate tools that you need to do a job. So like you got all these tools that, you need to say to work on one or two specific, vehicle brands. But then like now when another car comes in from a different brand and it's like, oh well, none of these
Those
tools,
tools don't work.
and it's like
yeah,
these tools don't
That's
work.
probably on purpose, right?
And now I gotta get these tools to work on this brand, and then yeah, there's a lot of that.
yeah, it's like if you roll with somebody that you haven't rolled with ever before, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, those tools that I had don't work on this person, right?
And,
Right.
it's the same way, like, somebody who's, not from the area, they train somewhere else, we've had people come in, stop in, want to take a class. Like, you don't know what other schools are doing. Like,
Right,
the person could be a white belt, but, that school, they might emphasize a certain technique, so this person's just really good at that technique.
Right.
right,
Like they might
right.
be killer at lockdown and a white belt comes in, they're just killer at lockdown or leg locks or heel hooks or whatever. And you need a different set of
Yeah,
tools to deal with that.
yeah,
And you're always learning from this person that comes
Right.
from a different school because you know they're working on one technique that we might not see here, and then so it's like, oh hey, that's really interesting, can you show me?
So this is
100%.
something like a lot of listeners might not know. Dan told us this earlier that he has his own personal toolbox at work. I thought that when you take your car to an auto mechanic that or a dealership to get work done on your car, that the dealership is the one who has all of these tools that he's using. He's using the dealership's tools, but we found out that Dan has his own personal toolbox,
Right.
and he's working on that. So can you relate that a little bit for our listeners, Dan? Like having your own personal toolbox as an auto mechanic and having your own personal toolbox as a jiu-jitsu practitioner?
Right. So, I buy tools that I need to do a job, but there might be tools where the guy working next to me, he might not have some of these tools because like he might feel that, oh, this other tool, I just find easier to use this tool to do a job, and for me, it's like, oh well, I like using this tool to do a job, whereas doing jujitsu, it's it's like, I have a certain set of techniques that I like to use, and but Frank or you, well, that technique doesn't really work for me, but I like doing this instead. So it's everybody just has their personal preference, and
Yeah.
what they feel they need to use.
Yeah, and you know what to use because that's your toolbox. So you know what you have
Right.
for a
And there's also a sense of teamwork. Like you were saying before, you might go to somebody else, another mechanic, and say, I know you have this tool. Can I use this? Or can you help me with this problem? Or I'm sure you help other mechanics who are newer with some problem solving. The teamwork, can you talk a little bit about teamwork? Because here you help us a lot. Like sometimes you'll teach a class, and every time one of us rolls with you, you'll always say, oh, you were having a problem right here. Let me just show you what you could have done. And I think that's just a great quality of you, of being a teacher. Do you also do that at your job? And is that something that kind of transfers both ways?
Yeah, absolutely. Like at work, we might have cars that say don't start or whatever. So you got to push the car in you got to push the car into the shop to, see what's going on with it. But it's like, you can't push a car by yourself. So, you got to grab a few people to help you push it in.
Right, right. And do you ever do any teaching at your, like, do you ever help other mechanics like, oh, I don't know how to do this and come over and just help them?
Yeah. So like, on occasion we might get someone come, like a kid from, that's a student at that's in a vocational program. So, they'll do a term out of the, however that works out of their program. They stay with us for a few months, and they work with different guys, just to see, different methods of working. And like a white belt, it's like you come to class, like every class, there's different people at every class. So it's like you're always learning from
And they're building
who's not,
theirs, right?
who's ever there on that night.
Right. And that's when they start building their toolbox.
right, right. And Dan is always open to helping everyone on the
Yeah.
mats. And that's what a leader does. He's a leader on the mats, and having somebody like that is very valuable for a gym. And having somebody like that in your job too is extremely important for your company to have people like you that are willing to share your knowledge with others too. So yeah, though this has been
Yeah.
amazing, Frank.
This is
This is
what
I
we got.
really, I'm gonna say that before you even start with your takeaways, Frank, I'm gonna say that the toolbox thing
I
is
love it.
intriguing. I wish we could talk for an hour about the toolbox part, but there's so much we could talk to Dan about because of his level of experience in the
In
mat on the
both.
mat on in
Yeah.
both things.
Yeah.
So
Like I
yeah,
would love to just do a jujitsu, just a straight up jujitsu about his techniques. Because I think he has the most funky and coolest techniques that nobody ever sees anywhere. I don't know where you get them from.
yeah.
I don't know if it's YouTube.
I've seen Frank and Dan roll before, and Dan has his lapel like wrapped around his shoulder, his
Then my
neck, his
ankle and
arm,
like half my body's paralyzed. Like I have one hand left. One
and,
hand left.
and that gi is wrapped around 5 times, and
Yeah,
he's
I'm
like,
like,
"How in the heck did you even get my gi
yeah,
over
like
there?"
is there any defense to these dark arts, you know? Really, really good stuff. So we have a lot of takeaways. Some of the things that I really like that you talked about, problem solving and the parallel you made between problem solving and patient problem solving, right? You're not gonna find the answers always in 5 minutes or even in a day. You said sometimes you have to have a car apart for 2 days so you can get the special tools. That kind of patience is important in jiu-jitsu. It's important in life. I like the way that you're a black belt in both your jiu-jitsu and in your career, but you are the consummate student. You're an expert student. You're always trying to learn new things. And I think everybody here can be inspired by that. No matter where you are in your corporation, in your organization, you're still a student. We're all students. That's a great takeaway from that. you talked about what I always talk to my students in school about, discipline. And how when you were doing MMA, you basically had 2 full-time jobs. But you didn't complain. It was commitment. It was pain and sacrifice. And you did it and you killed it. And you have the cauliflower ears to prove it. I think, Jason, you already touched on this, but toolbox analogy, every single one of our listeners, let's think about our toolboxes. Let's think about the toolbox we have in our sports, in our hobbies, and in our careers. Let's build those tools. And finally, the teamwork. You're nothing without your team. You need your team. And if you're in your organization, do like Dan does. He gives back so much. Like every time you roll with Dan, he gives you advice. Like, this is what you could have done here. This was great that you did this. Every organization needs people like that. So if you're at that position in your organization, keep doing it because people really, really appreciate it. Wow, that's just like a whole treasure trove of information. Bam. That was solid.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, so much for coming in and spending your time with us. We really appreciate
No,
it.
thanks. Yeah, it was awesome to be here.
It's always fun. And so,
Share.
yeah,
Share,
Hey,
share,
guys,
share.
we're in lots of countries. I think we're in Singapore. I know we're in Spain because I got my peeps in Spain. But we're all over the world. Please keep sharing this because it's fun for us to share our wisdom.
And the other thing too, Frank, is comment, right? So
Yeah, comment. I
so
don't
we
know how they would do that.
have a lot of episodes out there now, and we really appreciate when people comment because when you do, it gets us more. I think it's the
Okay.
yeah, and it
or
helps,
critical mass
and also it helps to build more
of a two-way communication.
right, yeah.
Yes. We want to connect with you. Connect with us. Show us some love because you know we love you. Take care.
All right, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Dan.
Well, there you have it. As we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to reflect on the powerful connections we've explored between the art of Jiu-Jitsu and your career. In your workplace and in Jiu-Jitsu, you learn to adapt and navigate challenges. So remember that persistence and the courage to embrace the lessons that you learn are the keys to your growth both on the mat and in your career.